In this video, I want to talk about three features of all audio courses, such as Pimsleur, that might help you decide if you would like to give one of these a try or not. One feature, I think, is objectively positive, a pro, a plus for everybody, and that's the way that these courses lend themselves to time management. The fact is that you can do one of these courses while you are doing something else, while you're commuting or going for a walk or doing some chores, which obviously makes it much easier if you're a normal human being who's not in the habit of teaching yourself foreign languages to do this for a first time. And also, if you're an obsessive polyglot and you want to squeeze in one more language into your day, you can do it this way as well. So that's plus, positive, pro for everybody. The other two features, though, I think could be pros or could be cons, depending upon your learning style, your past experience, your goals, things like that. So these are debatable, not in the sense that one side can win the argument or lose it, but that you really need to consider who you are and what you have done and what you're trying to do. So the basic idea of all audio pedagogy means that you're essentially choosing not to use your sense of sight when you could do so. You're choosing to restrict yourself to only listening and speaking, and not obviously to reading, to seeing, to writing, when you could be. Now, Pimsleur courses do not leave you 100% illiterate. At the end of every level, there is a lesson or two on reading individual words that you've learned, but in the main, yes, the focus is just on listening and speaking. I think there is some idea out there that perhaps if you restrict yourself to using one sense, such as hearing, that will become more acute, and maybe you can do a better job at it than if you're trying to use your other senses. But I think this pedagogy is based more on the idea that this is the natural way to learn, or no, not learn, acquire. Goes back to the acquire versus learning debate, and that this is the way that we acquire our mother or native tongues, just by listening and speaking them, and therefore we ought to emulate that as well here. This, as I said, this might work very well for some people. I've heard so many testimonies along the lines that people have tried learning a language in many different ways and just not gotten very far until they did all the Pimsleur levels, and then they were able to speak and talk. So this obviously opens doors for some people and enables them to learn when other forms of learning don't work for them. So that's great. On the other hand, if you are going to be a much more visual learner, if you don't have problems or issues with analysis, if you don't find that that trips you up but helps you clarify things, then I think that you probably will find all audio courses to be somewhat restrictive, a bit slow, a bit boring because there is so much repetition, and that if you were to take that 75 or 80 hours that you would devote just to going through all 5 Pimsleur levels, say, and you were to sit down with a book, a grammar book that you could also look at and see what the words are doing and see sentences and understand the analysis, I think that you could probably achieve a much greater, deeper level of understanding and command of the language in that same 75 or 80 hours. And the final aspect of all audio courses is, because there's only audio on the recording, you cannot get rid of the instructing language. It's not just target language only, it's also teaching language, almost in equal doses, which means two things. One, in essence, what you're doing is constantly translating, and that is maybe a good goal for you if you're want to become a translator. Maybe you don't mind, maybe it's okay, but I think a lot of pedagogy says that ideally you should be thinking in the target language, not translating to and from it. And that inability to listen only to the target language, to me, is impeded by this. I've always preferred courses like Assimil and Linguaphone because the audio is only in the target language. And what I do with courses like Teach Yourself is, when I take the audio, I edit the teaching language out and just end up with the target language. Obviously, with these, you can't do that. So that might bother you, or that might help you. But these are things to consider when you think about learning with an all audio course. Thank you.